Welcome to Synchronicity. This is going to be an episode where I'm constantly watching the battery power on my Zoom, making sure that it doesn't die so I can get everything out that I want to say, but also not being worried that it's going to die. So let's just imagine that it doesn't and I say everything I need to say. Okay, how you doing? Shit has been crazy the past week. I've gone through wild emotional swings and not like crazy towns, but man, just a lot of heavy emotions going up in a good way. I think it's a lot of heart opening stuff. That's what it feels like. A lot of purging of unconscious patterns and let's say masculine energy, but also feminine, kind of balancing out, right? This tendency of the divine feminine to envelop and consume. Think of a vagina, a Virginia as we call it. Think of it like as trying to envelop everything. There also is this natural kind of flow to the masculine trying to figure out its place in this world of craziness. And that's what's been going on. So if you've been feeling that, it's cool. We did a reading on 420 in the Patreon. That was fun. We'll do a few more of those this month. Speaking of the Patreon, there's new tiers. You can go check them out. Lower tiers now. It's not just the $13 level. We have some lower ones, some higher ones. We're doing online smoke sessions. You see how fast I'm talking just so this thing doesn't fucking die on me? Jesus Christ. So we had that going on. Check it out. Patreon.com/synchronicity, right? You know where to find it. It's not complicated. I want to definitely thank the guys at Ned. They're fucking awesome. I love that you guys are also enjoying their stuff. CBD, it's weed, it's cannabis. We're all doing it. At the very least, let's say you can't get weed, get some CBD in you. Anything related to the cannabis plant, I'm in favor of. These dudes, go to helloned.com. Rhett and Adrian hooked it up where you can get 15% off anything you get using the code SYNC, SYNC at checkout. I've used their stuff. More importantly than I've used their stuff and I enjoy it, they're good fucking people. Like, these are the businesses. I'm going to talk a little bit about the loan shit and what's going on financially. We'll talk about some practical shit and some esoteric shit this episode. But I hope Rhett and Adrian fucking use that stuff because they're awesome people. Support them if you want that. I like the lip balm. My lips have been chapped recently. Anyone else's? I don't know what's going on. There's weird shit. Lots of physical things going on. Little physical pains, overcoming physical exertions. Just is cool. Hang in there. Shit is amazing. We're riding some fucking gnarly waves right now. I can tell you that. Anyway, back to that. helloned.com. Use the code worst ad ever, by the way. SYNC. Also, this episode, just so you know, I feel like I've been slipping into like podcaster voice where like I'm trying to talk like I have a podcast. Like, what the fuck is that? I don't even know what that means. So just bear with me as I work through some shit. So here we go. Ned, helloned.com, code SYNC at checkout, 15% off. You know what it is. Fucking CBD. Okay, also I'm high right now, obviously. This episode, that's it. Oh, and go listen to Jess's new episode called The New Map on Sober. She's just like breaking it down like 10-point style on how to hack reality. It's really great. It's stuff that a lot of stuff we talk about on this podcast, but a pretty concise way of putting it together. So I highly recommend doing that. And I'm just going to talk about the shit that goes on in my life that is relatable to you, hopefully, or not. And then you probably don't have to listen to this, but whatever. Okay. This is an idea that was just presented to me that makes a lot of sense. And it relates to desire. And we've spoken about desire before a ton on this podcast and how it's not a bad thing and that we actually use it as a spiritual propellant to kind of get us to where we want to go by showing us who we really are. And that's awesome. But there is also this idea that what you desire may also be desiring you. It may be summoning itself to you. And what do I mean by that is it may just be a state of consciousness. Like maybe the state of consciousness is fulfillment and harmony, and that's what's pulling you towards it. So what you perceive as a desire to have harmony, love, unconditional acceptance in your life may actually be drawing you towards it. I don't know. It's just something to think about. For me personally, it feels like to me that I have a conscious choice and I'm making these things, but I like that idea. Also, it's important to play around with ideas that challenge your conception of who you are and what you believe. This is something that's very clear to me, is it's not incredibly valuable to have 1,000 people constantly agree with what you're saying. You want to be challenged, and your ability to recognize and learn from perspectives that you either haven't thought about or you don't agree with or intuitively feel off, that's super important. There's been a lot of that energy the past week, and this is how we grow, this is how we learn, and this is the opportunity that we give ourselves as reflections of who we are. So that's important to understand. All right, I was going to do all these tweets that I wrote. I'm going to save those and I'm going to go into the Neville Goddard shit because this is what people have been asking for the past few weeks. More Neville Goddard stuff. For people who don't know, Neville Goddard was a 20th century mystic. I found him in 2019, have a bunch of his talks. Fucking shit I had been batting around in my life for fucking 20 years, 25 plus years, just started to make a whole lot of sense. Can get pretty religious. The general premise that he rests on, and I share a lot of these talks in the Patreon, but is that, anything you would read in any holy scripture, in anything, the Bible, anything, right? I've extrapolated to mean anything, the Vedic texts, anything you would read, any mythology, that's just you. It's always you. You are the central character. You are all the characters. And there's psychological aphorisms and lessons that we learn about how our consciousness is the only real creative force in this reality and in all realities. But this one in particular, this 3D realm that we take to be so real. So I like to talk about shit he says because he says it sometimes in a way that can be inaccessible. His tone of voice, if you can hear these talks, which you can if you sign up for the list on syncpodcast.com. Oh, I'm getting real good at this. But if you sign up there, you'll get all of these talks and you can hear his voice is amazing, but some of the shit he's saying is really crazy. He's like, you're Jesus Christ. You're everything. Jesus Christ is a state of consciousness. Then when you remember your God, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I like to talk about this shit in a way that maybe isn't so crazy, or maybe it's more crazy, and that's what's perfect for you. Anyway. Okay, ask yourself, who am I and where am I? So do that right now. Who am I and where am I? Just ask yourself that real quickly. It's not hard. If you don't like your answers, assume you are the person you'd like to be, living where you'd like to live. Persist in this assumption, and although denied by your senses and reason, if you persist, your desires will harden into fact. Now, this is a doozy and a half. Okay, this is something that people will fight intellectually, fight rationally, fight in every way possible until they actually begin to test it and see if there is this operative mechanism. Now, this is just what Neville Goddard would call the law. This is an operative principle. This is just how something works. It doesn't imply an ethical framework in and of itself. My advice is to do this shit lovingly. So if you say, who am I, where am I, and you're not where you want to be and you're not who you want to be, if you use it lovingly and say, hey, you know what, I'd like to be here in the best possible way and feel like this, and I'd like to be the person who does this and that, if this is built with love and conforms to your ethical framework, you're good to fucking go. You just have to persist in that assumption, and that's all it is. What we call facts, what we call real things, if they're the proof that every fact is malleable is there's an exception to every fact. Even the empirical science that we view and believe is real, if there's one exception to it, it means that there are always going to be exceptions. This isn't saying we should jump off buildings because gravity doesn't really exist, but it does prove the underlying mechanism that helps gravity have its function is the belief that, hey, when I throw this thing off a roof, it's going to fall down. Whether we call that gravity or not doesn't really impact the stable imaginal reality it has because that's what we believe. And that's for everything. This is where it feels like cheating or it can feel wrong is if you just feel like, well, I'm not this I don't live in a mansion and I don't have like a dolphin I get to ride to work every day on the sea in the middle of the ocean and that's what I want. It's like, okay, well, is it really? Then try imagining it and see what comes up. Maybe something else will come up. Maybe the feeling of being satisfied while you ride your dolphin to work every day in the middle of the ocean to go talk business with the fish. Maybe that's fucking, maybe that's not what you really want. It's just the feeling behind it. So anyway, that was a weird tangent that I got on. But anyway, the idea here is that you just persist in the assumption that you are who you want to be. If you're listening to this podcast, rest assured that you're not delusional. You may think what you want is money. You may think that's the only thing you want in the world, but in reality, you probably want something that's attached to the money. Maybe it's power, maybe it's control, maybe it's status, maybe it's a feeling of then you'll be desirable or loved. Just keep using your desires to get to the root of it. Focus your assumptions on that. Use one of the mirror techniques, any of the techniques that I've spoken about or anyone has ever told you. They're all valid if you believe in them and see what happens. Okay, You're absolutely responsible for every being you meet in this world. That's your responsibility. Do you understand that? That means anyone you meet in any level of consciousness, you're responsible for them. That shouldn't be a burden. It shouldn't make you feel drained. If it does, you're not ready for that concept. It's no big deal. But if you understand that your conception and your belief of every single being that you have ever met and will ever meet is your responsibility to view them as the best version of themselves and on some deep energetic level, okay, that's cool. You don't get it yet, but that's really what's going on, because it is quite literally you. When you understand, you zoom into the full remembrance of what's going on, you recognize everything out there. Everything in your reality is also you. Not in a weird way. Not in a weird way. Don't be weird about it. Don't be a fucking lunatic, but just recognize like it's your responsibility to hold people into the best versions of themselves. Okay. Not in a weird way. Not in a preachy way either. That's also terrible. What else? Right now, imagine something lovely for another. They need never know who was the cause of their fortune, but you will. You understand? That's just try it. Just imagine something really amazing for someone you love. Not in like a whole, you have to sit down in some ritualistic way. It should take 5 seconds. Just imagine, this is the group imagining this week. Imagine just someone you care about and love. Just imagine something so great happening to them. Don't have to be so specific about it. Just imagine it great. Imagine them telling you and see what happens, okay? You don't have to say anything. You don't say, I imagined that for you. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Forgive everyone for everything they have ever done, because you may have been the one who was the cause of their action. Do you understand that? You don't know. Your level of awareness likely isn't at the point where you understand how your consciousness is impacting other people. You may gain more awareness and you may realize, oh my God, I made this person act like that, or they made you act like that. Ooh. It doesn't really matter who did what, but it does matter that you should hold yourself accountable and not condemn people for roles that they're playing in your life or you may be playing in their lives. It's your ability to strengthen your individual perspective of who you are. That's it. That's the name of the game right now, is you strengthen your belief and your conviction in who you are and what you're doing, and that's it. I just farted. Felt great. Okay. It costs you nothing to imagine consciously. Do you understand? You can just let your imagination run wild. You can let your moods dictate everything, external reality. You can, but it also costs you nothing to imagine consciously. If you understand that you can invite abundance, satisfaction, fulfillment, all of these things into your life and have them conform to what you deeply believe to be good and right and true, you're good to go. Okay? When you pray, do not get down on your knees and pray to any unknown God. Instead, go to bed and dare to assume you are now who you want to be. Fall asleep assuming it is true, and you will be on the road to success, for this is how things are brought into being. Okay? Just assume I know I can feel the resistance at times of people being like, this is nonsense. This is insane. How could reality work like this? I must be somehow cutting myself off to some valid mystery of experience if I'm doing this. First of all, let me be the first person to tell you, things get infinitely more mysterious, infinitely more cool, infinitely more wonderful in the sense that you're constantly just amazed at how complex and cool shit can be. So don't worry about that being cut off if you can dare to assume who you want to be. But just if you fall asleep assuming that something is going to happen, it will. I want to do a tangent here. I want to talk about some real world shit, because I see a lot of people buying into this pandemic, not as an opportunity, but as some devastating thing. All right. I'm saying this not to brag. I just want to be very clear about how perspective can shape reality. So there's this thing called the Personal Paycheck Protection Program that the government released through the Small Business Association. And you may have heard the stories of like Shake Shack and bigger companies taking advantage of this and getting like $10 million, what are known as forgivable loans. So you don't have to pay them back. And, people are like, this is all scam. You can't do it, blah, 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 blah. Rather than recognizing that, the incentive behind this is to inject cash into the economy. It's nothing more than that. Money is made up. If you've heard my thoughts on Bitcoin, you know how I feel. They're just printing money just because they need people to have some semblance of normalcy and use their money in a normal way. And if they're not making it their jobs, which is how they've told they need to make money, it still needs to be injected to the economy. So I viewed this as an opportunity. I have a business. I have a tax employer identification number. So I applied through my regional bank for a reason. This is a practical 3D reasons behind this, but also based on my belief that I could get a loan. Okay, a forgivable loan that I don't have to pay back. I know many people who applied for this exact same loan They didn't get it and I got it. I got it the day before they announced that all the money had run out, and they're funding it again. So I highly recommend anyone with the tax ID number to apply again. I got it, no one else did. Why did that happen? Is it because I'm better at imagining things than people? No, that has nothing to do with it. It's because I formulated a narrative and an assumption and a belief that if I went through a regional bank, it would be better than a national bank, that I am certainly deserving of this loan, this $20,000 that should be deposited in my account. I certainly am going to use it to help myself and other people and my family and do things that I desire to do that I know are good. Therefore, I just fully accepted it into my life. I also found the practical means that allowed me to believe that, but that's not where I started. I started by knowing this had already happened. And you can say, no, you're just lucky. You just did the right thing at the right time. I'm telling you, people applied before me. They probably had as legitimate or more legitimate chance of getting the loan approved. And I'm only saying this that this is actually how shit works. And the reason you may be feeling sad or angry or depressed or like you don't understand something is probably to show yourself that you can use something like this, like an assumption that you are the person, that you are the person you want to be, that you're doing what you want, to transcend such a locked in state of consciousness as depression, anxiety, worry, fear. When you transcend that, it pops you out so fucking fast. You literally transform into something that you have always been but didn't recognize. So that's why I keep saying this. There are many paths and roads to waking up, some through suffering to intense degrees, some through a little bit. But I'm here to basically tell you can fucking destroy limited versions of yourself and live to just be the person you've always wanted to be. It doesn't mean you feel delusionally happy all the time. I want to keep saying that. I think there's this misconception that because I talk about this all the time and that I'm saying and just like constantly relaying that shit is good, that I'm always happy. I go through a full spectrum of emotions. And I do hew on the side of feeling amazing all the time. Sorry, it's just how I feel. It was a decent amount of work in consciousness, time, space to have to do that or be able to do that, but it's really possible. And the beauty is once the path has been trailed, once someone has blazed this path, I'm certainly not the first, but it's easier to do it. It's like a neural pathway. The more you go back and forth, we as individuals being kind of these things that form these tunnels of neural pathways, it's easier for people to follow, right? It's kind of like I'm trying to be the Harriet Tubman of the underground suppressed fucking serotonin in your brain. That's my function. Okay. When it appears that people other than yourself and your world do not act toward you as you would like, it is not due to reluctance on their part, but a lack of persistence in your assumption of your life already being as you want it to be. Do you understand that? When people challenge your version of reality, it's not them doing that. It's you doubting yourself, and they're playing it through you, and it's no big deal. Strengthen your shit. Strengthen the belief of which timeline you're moving on to. Do you know why I say it's the best fucking timeline? Because it is. It's the best fucking timeline. Just accept it, but believe it and craft it yourself. That's how you need to do it. Your awareness, you can determine your attraction to where you want to go. You want to feel happy and fulfilled, you will be attracted to that naturally. You'll move towards it. You can't fight it. If you feel that things are shitty and they're not fair, that's your perspective. You'll be attracted and drawn to that. So just no one is going to fucking fuck your shit up but you. Take that responsibility. It's okay. Giving is simply believing. For what you truly believe of others, you awaken within them. Do you understand that? I know for a fact that everyone wakes up. I know for a fact everyone I know personally in my life, and the vast majority of people listening to this podcast, wake the fuck up and start doing everything they've ever wanted to do in their lives. Like, for real. That sounds crazy, but I know it. And I know that because if I have done it and I have lived in this state for well over a year and not gone certifiably insane, having done that before, I wasn't certifiable, but that happens for everyone. That's it. Super easy. It's a really easy thing to understand. And you'll know when it feels right. It won't feel like this unstable, how did I get here? What's going on? What did I do? You'll be like, oh, these are the things I did. Wow, I know how to stabilize my consciousness and summon forth what I want in my reality. Also, write shit down. Just write shit down, okay? The hardest lesson to learn is that there is no one in this world that can be drawn into your world unless you and you alone call them. Do you understand that? If someone comes into your life and they're troubling you or they're bothering you, you brought them there to show you something about yourself. It's probably to show you that you should love yourself and love them by proxy, but it certainly can be for another reason. Maybe you bring danger in your life, physical danger, so you can determine your relationship with it. I wouldn't do that personally, but maybe you're doing that. But you're bringing them into your life, and that's always you. Take that responsibility too. It's not a big deal. You can change it. That's the beauty. It's not a burden if you know you can change it, right? Imagination and faith are the secrets of creation. Man either goes forward to imagination or remains imprisoned in his senses. To go forward to imagination is to forgive. Forgiveness is the life of the imagination. All right, let's talk about this, right? Faith is just loyalty to your visions, to what you feel, to what you believe. That's all faith is. It's not this nebulous, like, gotta have faith. I don't know what that is. What could it mean? It's just that's it. You imagine something and you have faith in it. You believe in it. You know it to be true. If you go forward in imagination and what you create and summon forth, you're good to go. You're constantly going to be moving in the direction you want to move in. But if you are constantly imprisoned in your senses, you're not really doing anything. Now, let's talk about a subtle difference between imagination and this perpetual kind of deferment mindset, which is, let's say you're imagining all of these things for yourself, but it's somewhere in this future that you're not there yet. That's just constantly building and constructing something and never dwelling in it. You're never actually living in the thing you constructed. You're just constantly going to be like, I will live in it. That's different than actually like real imagining something for yourself and embodying it. So if you go forward in imagination, you're forgiving yourself for everything because you're recognizing you are constantly in a state of being able to create whatever you want. And it means whatever is happening in your past. It's not forgiveness in just not having to learn the lessons of being a compassionate and amazing person, but it's being able to forgive anything you've ever done because that's what you need to do for everyone. And it doesn't, I know it could seem like the world would just go to shit and the people who want to take advantage would, and that's how everything would go. It's not how it works. Your ability to conceive of your world as a kind, benevolent place and see that reflected back actually in your external reality is a pretty amazing thing to witness. And you will witness it. You probably already witnessed it. Your opinion of yourself is your most important viewpoint. You're infinitely greater than you think you are. This is like super duper duper important. Whatever, if you believe you're a superhero, if you believe you're a god, if you believe you're a being of unlimited potential, but really believe that, you are. If you believe you are just a cog in a wheel, a little speck of dust in a grand clock that doesn't mean anything, that's how you're going to feel. The truth is, whether you believe that or not, you are infinitely greater than you could possibly imagine. It's just because you're quite literally everything. And psychedelics can give us a glimpse of that. Many different states of consciousness can, wherever they come from, sometimes out of the blue, but prove it to yourself. Write something down. Write the story of your life. Write something that you would like to experience in the next few months, no matter how improbable. Just write it down and get back to me when it happens. That's all I ask. Write to me, noah@syncpodcast.com. Just write. I don't need to imagine anything else for you guys anymore, just to be clear. I imagine that all of your dreams are coming true. So they are if you accept it. But your opinion of who you are is actually the thing that determines when this stuff appears in your life. Everything is yours all the time. You summon it forth by believing that to be true. You may feed your hunger by thinking of your desire, or feed its satisfaction by thinking from its fulfillment. Do you understand that the desire is just the indicator where we direct our attention and feeling towards? To truly be satisfied and have that appear or be in your world, you need to know that it's already happened. It's the same way of thinking back of your last meal that you ate. No one needs to convince you that you ate it. You know you ate it. Good. It's been done. It's done. That's how you have to think of things you want in your life or desire. Be careful as you use this law that you're using it lovingly. You may find that something you wanted you didn't really want. You may find like this is the beauty of this. People, I know it feels like somehow this is like, again, I keep saying it like it's cheating or it's circumventing pain and suffering or necessary life lessons. It's not. It will move you through everything you've ever wanted to experience at the speed you want to experience it, because what you're doing is you're just connecting your conscious and subconscious, your mind, your rational and subjective mind, your objective and subjective, I should say, masculine and feminine, right? That's what you're doing here. When you make that connection, this world changes a lot. If I do not change and grow and outgrow and grow and outgrow, then I know nothing of the mystery of Easter, because Easter just happened, right? For Easter is really the greatest of all mysteries. It's when man awakens within himself from his birth at Bethlehem and he awakens as God. That's the story of Easter. So again, this goes back to the idea of Jesus Christ or anything. It's not a story of this dude who came up out of his grave and was like, yeah, I'm back, baby. Let's go fucking smoke some drugs. Whoa, that Jesus actually sounds cool. And if that's what he did, I believe in that. But it is the story of you waking up, man or woman or whatever the fuck, anything, you wake up in your mind and go, holy shit, this is my world. I'm actually creating it. Holy shit. It's a very distinct form of consciousness. When you get that, the first thing you want to do is test it, pressure test your reality, probably try to freak yourself out, make sure that it's stabilized. Then you get to start doing miracles for yourself, for other people. It's pretty amazing. And that's really what Easter is, right? The idea of forgiving is a daily possibility. And if it's sincerely done, it will fit man to a higher and higher levels of being. You'll experience a daily Easter, and Easter is the idea of rising transformed. This is the transformation I'm talking about. This is the ability to quickly, whenever you want, imagine yourself to be something and have it be summoned forth in your reality. That's the transformation. It's the best superpower. It's the superpower to basically get infinite wishes. It's the superpower to understand that you can really dictate and experience anything you want. Whether you're consciously aware of that or not, it's not that important. It's nice when you are. It feels good to our conscious minds. It's like a nice, it's like petting a little animal. It's like, yeah, you're good. You're good, Wolfie. You're good conscious mind. I love you. You're so nice. But like your subconscious mind is really the operative power here. And when those two are linked, it feels great. So you can do that is basically what I'm saying. Only as one is willing to give up his present limitations and identify can they become that which they desire to be. Give up your bullshit. You gotta give up. You gotta have a flexible enough mind that you're not locked into any one perspective. Do you understand that? Even the perspective that imagination creates reality. You gotta be willing to drop that. It does. Don't worry. It's cool. It's fun. I've tested it. But you got to be willing to drop it. Don't get too rigidly attached to anything. It's incredibly important because if you do, you're going to be defining yourself based on an opposing viewpoint. I'll talk a little bit about that. I cannot believe this. Well, I don't want to say that. This battery's holding up is all I'll say. For life makes no mistakes and it gives you what you first give yourself, right? This world is always going to reflect back what you believe. Do you understand that? You'll see it everywhere. You know this. This is how the internet fractured the systems that existed as people started to recognize their consciousness is actually what tuned their reality, not so much what they were being fed from media channels that were once dominant conglomerates. It's now like, wait, they're like this thing on YouTube. This is all that's in my world. I only into mukbangs. I only want to see people eat lots of food on the internet now. That's their reality. Hear your friend tell you his good news, see the joy on his face, feel the thrill of fulfillment, and let it take place in your world. That's a really quick way to pray for someone, quote unquote. Just like go through your friends and imagine them telling you amazing news. Just like, oh my God, just like, wow. I can't believe this thing happened to me. It's so great. It's amazing. And then watch what happens. You understand how good it feels to help people that way? You will naturally also find yourself in situations where if you want to be a giving, helping person where you have the resources to do that. That's a wonderful reason to desire money, by the way. If you want money because you want to distribute it in an equitable, fair way and be a conduit for it for other people, guess what? You're going to have a lot of money and it's going to feel great. And you can also have nice things if you want to. That's also okay, right? Understand that. When the Spirit of Christ is formed in you, you will forgive a person no matter what he has done. Do you understand this? Then we start getting the weird shit about Hitler and forgiving Hitler and understanding that Hitler was just playing a role. And the worst person, the murderer, the rapist, these people are playing roles. You don't condone their behavior, but you don't condemn them for it either. That's important. And when you can forgive them and recognize that anything anyone has ever done externally, you also have the capacity to do, man, just watch the people who come into your life who resonate at that frequency. Those are the people you want to be chilling with. Those are the people who are fun. Those are the people you want to smoke weed with. Those are the people you want to trip with, right? Do you know what you want from life? You can be anything you want to be if you know who you are. Start from the premise, I am all imagination and pass through states. For eternity, all things exist now. Here's the idea. Everything exists all of the time. Time and space are an illusion. We are the impregnating sperm or fertilizer that gives life to these states. If you want to move into a state of consciousness of ultimate satisfaction and feeling, go through there. If you want to move into the state of consciousness where you're a sex god, move into that. If you want to move into the state of consciousness where you're a billionaire, go do that. Take a look at the people who've moved into these states of consciousness and see if they're happy and see if it's something you resonate with and move into that. That's it. That's really all it is. Now, you may knock yourself out of those states because you believe it's too good to be true or it's not possible, but that's all it is. You're just this kind of energetic golden liquid light moving through these bubbles of moods, and as you animate them, you embody them, and you go, oh, I'm Noah living through this state. Oh, I'm Jill living through this state. Oh, I'm Todd living through this state. It's just how it works. When you know what you want, you don't ask God as though he were another. You ask your individual self to bring about your desire, for you are he, and God, your own wonderful human imagination, will respond when you will not take no for an answer. Do you understand? Like when you don't take no for an answer. If you say, I am deserving of unconditional love and abundance, and nothing, and you go, no, you're not. And you go, no, I am. And you literally just know, this is who I am. This is what I deserve. Watch what funnels into your life. I don't want to make it seem like it's always easy. Do you know how many times I fucking pressure tested? Just with this loan, I was like, is this really how reality works? I pressure test my shit all of the time. You have to do that. That's stabilizing your surfboard on these waves of existence, right? You need to do that. I don't want anyone to think that I don't have these testings, these pressure testings, these threshold guardians. You're going to see me do some amazing shit, right? You're going to see fucking experiences ramp up in my life. You're going to see them ramp up in your life too. Rest assured, I'm pressure testing the shit out of my reality as I move up these situations and experiences and relationships. Of course I am, because I actually want to experience the full appreciation and gratitude for them. And knowing that means you modulate and you pressure test what you're going through. So just know that, like, you just ask yourself for what you want, okay? It's great. I ask you to examine yourself when confronted with a problem. Do you turn to someone on the outside for its solution, or do you believe that all power resides in your human imagination? What do you do? It's cool to get a reading from someone. I love getting readings from people. They are me giving me information through them, and they're of course real in the sense that anything outside of me is real, quote unquote, but it's also just a way of me solving an issue through myself. If that means I had to pay someone for this or I had to experience that, that's fine. That's just the means and ways, not that important, but you always have the answers. Doesn't mean you have to go it alone. Doesn't mean you have to be isolated, but you always have the ability to solve your own problems. Need to know that. It also makes solving problems collectively and with other people so much fucking better. So much better, because as you do that, you realize, like, wow, what an elegant way of proving that we're all the same, that we can be mirrors of consciousness, that collectively, like, we fit together like a fucking Voltron into some ultimate being of unity amazement. It's fucking cool, right? What is imagined is as real as what my senses now dictate. Okay, this is important. Like, don't make this schism, this delineation between this world and your imagined senses. The only way I would say to do that is your imagined world is probably a little more powerful. This world is dead. It's an illusion. It's not real. Sorry, it's just kind of how it works. This world is dead. Don't ask for outside help. Go within and use the only, this is something I wrote. This world is dead, all right? Don't ask for outside help. You need to go inside and ask the only creative force in the world. External reality will conspire to create what you know to be true. That's just how it works. Like, you can't make this world do anything until you recognize it's a reflection of who you are, okay? That's super fucking important. Also, I want to talk a little bit about, like, defining yourself or your persona or your sense of being from within, from, like, what drives you passionately inside of you, as opposed to just, like, constructing something based on something you're against, right? If having an opposing viewpoint or perspective is all you're basing your life on, you're just running someone else's script and giving up your own personal power. It's thoroughly unsatisfying, right? Like, you don't want to do that. So take the time, or take whatever you need, energy, to really identify what you want to be, what you care about, what you're passionate about, and make sure it's what you want. Don't run someone else's version of you or the script or some movie that you're in. Like, that's not It's not worth it. It's not bad. Don't judge it. It's not a value judgment, but it's just not that exciting when you know you could basically be doing whatever you want. Listen, you may be like, listen, Noah's saying this to a lot of people on a podcast. Not everyone can have the exact same thing. I can only say this as much as people can hear it, which is until you stabilize and recognize that this is true, that your consciousness is the only creative force, that imagination does create reality, that the only way to prove that is by empirically testing it for yourself, not by taking someone else's word for it. But until you really lock that shit in to a certain degree and recognize your perspective and awareness literally creates your reality, don't worry about the outside world. Okay, it doesn't mean don't pay attention, doesn't mean don't engage with. But don't concern yourself with broader implications of how this shit fits together and how it could be true. This is not an excuse to avoid it or, not deal with it at a future point, but you want to stabilize this in your own world because you'll move to a timeline where the world starts to make sense. I promise you that. I promise you'll be able to see things that made no sense before, that they not only make sense, they're kind of funny, okay? This is very true. Have you realized that, everything is meditation yet? Don't make the misapprehension that you need to sit down and meditate in a certain way. You can. It's wonderfully valid. Naps can be meditation. There's tons of validity. I'm still reading Milarepa. All this dude talks about is how he goes to places and meditate. But please recognize that you are off somewhere distantly with your eyes closed in lotus posture, imagining this dream of you that you're experiencing, me talking to you right now. That's what's going on. So know that this whole existence is you meditating. That might take the pressure off. Maybe you might find yourself actually sitting down in lotus posture here. Who knows? But I'm just saying you're always meditating. Don't think you have to do it in a certain way to be a good person and that's how you do it. Because I can tell you, a lot of the people I know who have sat down in lotus posture for decades, they're just as fucked up as you. Don't think that they're not. And don't think that there's not a way to transcend that either. There most certainly is. Otherwise, what are you doing? If there's not a way to transcend that, what are you doing for real? Okay. I spoke a little bit about astrology on Twitter. I don't think I'm going to get too much into that. I basically was saying I love astrology. I use it consistently, but I don't externalize it as a deity. It doesn't run my life. It can certainly have impacts, but it's a stable imaginal act, just like anything else. Just use it for the wonderfully valid energetic tool that it is. Same thing with tarot. People who sign up for these readings know this, the cards are them. The energy that's getting passed around is them. It's showing them their true power. It's less about any divination or fortune telling. It's really just uncovering who they actually are, which is fucking unlimited. And it's fun to do that. Okay. That was a nice little inadvertent advertisement for the readings, which are fun. I think we'll save all the other stuff for another episode. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Listen, let's talk just for a second about collectively what's going on. I pulled a spread for this episode. We got Knight of Swords, Wheel of Fortune, and then Three of Pentacles. So this is this quick moving energy, kind of flushing out the old, the remnants of it, moving towards the no. There can be some trepidation there. We're moving incredibly quickly, incredibly fast into this Wheel of Fortune. Where it lands, nobody knows. Who's going to know? Some people get PPP loans, some people don't. Some people get unemployment, some people don't. Know that you're worthy of settling into whatever life you want to live. If you want to live a life of abundance where all of your needs are taken care of and you can focus on the things that are super important to you, start focusing on the things that are super important to you. That's what you use your imagination for. It's not just about these physical material things, which can be wonderful reminders and symbolic tokens of how this stuff works. But really settling into the best version of yourself is the power of this. And that's what we constantly want to be striving towards. And to me, the best version of you or anyone else is someone who recognizes you can do anything. Anything. You can heal people. Do you understand? You can heal people who are suffering in your field of awareness. Do you know how amazing that is? That's what I'm kind of trying to get at. It doesn't mean we only do that, but just by being the person you're supposed to be can be a healing act. And don't judge yourself for not being at a place where you think you should be. You may just be sensing some future potentiality that you're inevitably moving towards, but you're judging yourself for not being there fast enough. That's like looking at a seed you planted in the ground and it not immediately turning into the tree that gives you an apple. I mean, like, this fucking seed is bullshit. It's like, chill out. It's going to grow. You're going to get your apple. Just be patient. Recognize you're a master of time and space, and you can stand there and chill there for eternity until that apple gives you infinite apples. That apple tree gives you infinite apples, okay? Have that ability. You can do whatever you want. Time definitely isn't real. Do you understand that? If you understand that, it should take a lot of the pressure off for you understanding and recognizing what you're doing here. This is fun. I understand that there are other people who are not having a fun time right now. That's something they've chosen on a deep level. It doesn't mean that, oh, they're going to stay, well, that's, too bad for them. No, imagine you understanding this to the degree that you can actually alleviate that suffering, not just with your mind, though. I just want to be clear, like, you don't just like get off the train. Oh, I imagine this person happy, I'm done. If this is something you deeply care about, it will inspire you to be on the course of action that actually alleviates their suffering, not just from an energetic level, although importantly from an energetic level, but from a physical action standpoint. You will then start running the script of taking care of something. This looks like, for me, here's a really good example. I know in the future I will be dealing with the homelessness issue. It's something that's very dear to me. I've had plenty of experiences in my life where I haven't been homeless, but I've seen people who are homeless, and I see that they're just normal people who just kind of had a vision or version of their lives that put them in a role that kind of, it was fucked up, right? And being able to create an organization or a system that helps with that in a way that not just gives people the tools to get back on their feet, so to speak, but to understand they can live important and meaningful lives is something I know I'm going to be working on in the future. Am I going to be working on it this year? Probably not. The next year? Probably not. Probably going to be doing more creative projects and music things and events related to this podcast, but I know I'm going to be doing it in the future. But I don't judge myself for not immediately taking that action right now. I do know that the version of me that incarnates in this world absolutely tackles issues related to that and many other things. So don't judge yourself for not being exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Chill out. Have a good time. That's also just part of what a lot of what we're doing is. We're just supposed to be relaxing and having a good time. And that can feel so wrong when shit is crazy out in the world, but it's allowed. It really is. And also recognize that if you couldn't do that, then no one could do that. And that means things would be pretty bleak. And we know that they're not. Also, one thing I want to say about conspiracy theories related to everything that's going on with the virus and everything else, everything is a potential reality. Everything exists. If you believe in a conspiracy, you will see evidence that validates it, and it could be very true. If it helps you, if it makes you more fulfilled and happy and stable, great. But if it just makes you fearful, freaked out, and something to just kind of sink your intellectual kind of like seeking mind into, just question it. Also recognize any areas of inflexibility. If you're talking with people about metaphysical issues or politics or anything, astrology, food, and you notice you have a rigid standpoint, even that imagination creates reality. Anything, just note what's going on there. We define and help craft our beliefs and viewpoints from opposing opinions and viewpoints and perspectives. Everything is valid, right? That's really important to understand. It doesn't mean you have to align yourself with fucking eugenics and want to see something. It doesn't mean eugenics is really valid, but a perspective entertaining ideas shouldn't lead to an inflexibility or rigidness. I don't know what the fuck happened this episode. We had like 3, 4, 5, 6 really funny, fun episodes. There's some gnarly energy going on right now. I can fully appreciate that. I think it's a good thing. I think we also want to acknowledge that, like, as we move towards very bright futures, we want to kind of shake off and be aware of what we don't want in life. And to be aware of that, we need to experience it. It's like that we would never know if anything was good if all we ever experienced was good. It would just be what is. But by having things that don't feel good, we get the real genuine appreciation and gratitude for when things are good. And we could just use the word resonance or resolution when we're talking about good. That's the feeling we're looking for. It's like you're playing a bunch of notes on a piano, and then it hits that chord. Oh, that's what you're looking for. I'm trying to think of a song that is like that. I'll have another one for you. Spotify playlists are up. Lots of music coming out. I'm going to release the song 12, which a lot of people have heard on this podcast. Probably this episode in the beginning it'll be on. Full version coming out tonight or tomorrow. So you can sign up for the Patreon if you want access to that. I think the $3 level is the lowest one to get the music. It'll be hitting the streaming sites soon. Lots of other music coming out. My studio is almost set up in Rhinecliff. Fun shit's going on. Okay, that's it. That's it for this episode. Holy shit, what was this? I don't know. I know you're doing good. If you feel like you're not doing good, you're probably doing extra good. That's the truth. All right. Love you. Happy imagining.